President begins two-day official visit to Qatar. Vice Admiral Sirimevan Ranasinghe appointed new commander of Sri Lanka Navy. Court rejects Arjuna Loshu's request to travel overseas. National Freedom Front isolates leader Vimal Veeravansa on statement to bomb Parliament. Road Development Authority violates law to construct road in Hantana.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Welcome to Primetime News. We are coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studio here in Colombo. I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
A very good evening. I'm Joel Outscoon.
As mentioned on the headlines tonight, President Maithripala Sirisena commenced a two-day official visit to Qatar on an invitation extended by the country's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani.
President Maithripala Sirisena and his delegation reached the Hamad International Airport in Doha last night. The president was received at the airport by a special delegation, including the Minister of Economy and Commerce Sheikh Ahmed bin Jazim Al Thani. Officials of the Sri Lankan embassy in Qatar had organized a special welcome ceremony at the hotel where the president would be staying. The president is set to hold bilateral discussions with the Emir of Qatar, the Prime Minister and several other ministers. Close to 140,000 Sri Lankans are currently employed in Qatar in various fields. President Sirisena is also scheduled to meet with Sri Lankan expatriates during his tour. Yet in headline-making news this evening, Vice Admiral Sirimevan Ranasinghe was appointed as the new Navy commander by President Maithripala Sirisena. The appointment will come into effect from tomorrow.
Vice Admiral Sirimevan Ranasinghe, who functioned as a Chief of Staff of the Navy before, accepted the letter of appointment from the Secretary to the President this morning. He becomes the 22nd Navy Commander. He is a past pupil of the Anuradhapura Mahavidyalaya. Vice Admiral Sirimevan Ranasinghe joined the Sri Lankan Navy as a 11th Cadet Officer on the 15th of November in the year 1982. After being adjudged the best cadet at the Navy and Maritime Academy in Trincomalee, he secured an opportunity to enter International Midshipman course at the Britannia Royal Naval College. Vice Admiral Ranasinghe is an anti-submarine warfare specialist. He was a Deputy Area Commander of the Southern Naval Area in 2008 and the Commander of Southern Naval Area in 2012. A highly decorated officer, is also the recipient of the Veera Vikrama Vibhushanaya and Rana Vikrama medals for gallantry in the face of the enemy. He is also a good badminton player and obtained the Britannia Royal Naval College colours for badminton and a recipient of the Triple Crown in badminton in 1997 at the Inter-Command Navy Tournament. National organizer of the National Freedom Front, P.S. Vijayanayake, has said the recent statement made by the party's leader, MP Vimal Veeravansa, regarding the parliament does not reflect the stance of the party.
ජාතික නිදහස් පෙරමුණේ නායක විමල් වීරවංශ ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා
Honorable MP Vimal Veeravansa, the leader of the National Freedom Front, had made a statement to the media recently saying Parliament should be bombed. As the national organizer of the party, this statement actually came as a shock to me. I spoke to the General Secretary of the party and asked, what is this decision which has not been made by the Politburo Committee and the Central Working Committee of the party? General Secretary Priyanjit Vitarana said such a decision had not been made. This statement which MP Vimal Veeravansa made saying Parliament should be bombed is quite wrong. This is not the opinion nor decision of the National Freedom Front. This is most likely his personal opinion. Bombing the parliament of a peaceful country will have a detrimental impact on democracy. This is an absolutely inappropriate statement. We humbly express our regret to the 225 members of parliament regarding this statement. They are enticing acts of terrorism. This is not a party which would resort to an armed struggle. This is a serious statement because it could encourage someone to actually carry out such an action. The question is, if someone publicly says he is going to commit such an act, doesn't the provisions of law allow for action to be taken in that regard? The other matter is, no one has the right to say he is going to shoot a person. No one has the right to say he will bomb the parliament. These are not ordinary matters. It is not the terrorists they are trying to shoot, it is the public representatives.
Let's now head into a short commercial break, and when we come back, we've got Action TV.
Welcome to the Newsfirst newsroom. We are here tonight to discuss one thing. That is the National procurement process for liquid petroleum gas or LP gas. Now we are talking about a deal worth around $2.2 billion. There have been many controversies surrounding the deal. Over the past few months, we have highlighted these controversies. We spoke to Subject Minister Kabir Hashim regarding these controversies. Let's first see what the minister had to say about this.
Shell gas
Based on the agreement signed in 2016, the price set by Shell was $58. The agreement will be valid till it expires. If the new agreement has not been signed, then it is not valid. So there will be a delay in procurement. Because of this delay, we will have to go for spot purchases. The valid purchase for Shell is $58 and we will have to purchase at the same rate. However, the management was able to speak with them and reduce it by $1.
Now, there have been two key allegations that have been leveled throughout this entire process. One is that the person who applied the lowest tender or submitted the lowest tender did not get this process or did not get this tender to supply LP gas. The second is that there was constant interference in the entire tender process. We heard from the minister that 50,000 metric tons of LP gas will be purchased through spot purchasers at a rate of around $57. The minister revealed that they will be buying this from Shell gas. However, interestingly, for the Shell gas to supply $57 a unit or a metric ton, they have earlier quoted $47.50 in the national tender procurement issue. When they submitted a tender to obtain the national tender to supply gas for 2017-2018, the price that they quoted was $47.50. Now, regardless, this is a difference of around $10. So questions rise. Why did we opt to go for Shell gas when there were other companies which we could have bought from a lower price at a lower price? And if Shell gas can provide the national tender at around $47.50, why did they quote a price which is around $10 higher in this instance? We asked this from the minister as well.
There is nothing for the Litro board to approve. The ministry and Litro don't have the power to approve this. There is a national procurement process. This happens from outside the ministry. That is why a technical evaluation committee is appointed by the Public Financial Department.
Public Finance Department.
During the Board of Directors meeting, it says Minister appointed technical committee. This statement was made by Mr. Hapuarachi.
Hapuarachi can
Yes, the minutes are wrong. How can I appoint TEC?
Do you accept that neither the Litro chairman or its board of directors have identified the procurement process clearly?
There might be a mistake in their minutes. That is why a new chairman has been appointed.
Now, there have been some interesting developments with regard to this tender. On the 31st of July, the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Enterprise Development writes this letter to 4 different companies which applied for the national tender. It says that Shell gas has been selected to supply LP gas for the country, and it also notes that this tender is done and dusted. Now, on the 17th of August, the Litro Gas, the board of directors of Litro Gas, have their board meeting, and this tender is discussed during that meeting. Then board member Aruna Siriwardana raised a number of questions regarding the approval given for this tender, and because of the questions raised by him, they got in touch with Mr. Suren Batagoda, the chairman of the cabinet appointed procurement committee, to seek clarifications regarding this tender. Now, the board of directors of Litro get in touch with the chairman of the cabinet appointed procurement committee, and the cabinet appointment procurement committee chairman says that he is not aware of such a tender. So if this tender was actually signed by the 31st of July 2017, on which date this letter was sent, Mr. Suren Batagoda should have known about it. Then Now, these questions and the responses given by Mr. Suren Batagoda are well documented in the minutes of the meeting of the Litro Board of Directors. Let's see how the minister responded to this allegation.
It is the board of directors at Litrogas who are saying that there is an issue in the process. When the board of directors gathered, there was no letter. They say the letters are with the minister. So that means you have interfered.
Can I again speak to you in English because you understand English better? Right? Basically, what has happened during a board meeting and a conversation that took place, which I am not privy to, right, is something that I can't answer. I was not at the board meeting. But there is a legal system and an established procedure for tenders. It cannot go outside that. So whatever the director board has spoken and whether they have had arguments between them is something else. If at all, if somebody says that I have intervened unduly, I need to have proof of that.
Now, the allegations being raised in this regard are being levelled by the board of directors of Litrogas. Litrogas comes under Minister Kabir Hashim's purview. So if the minister wants to clear this up, he could clearly take action against the board of directors as it comes under his purview, or he could call the board of directors with him, have a media briefing or a public debate and clarify this entire issue. Gas prices have gone up, but all we are highlighting these issues is because of one reason. That is because there may be people in the middle who are trying to benefit of these transactions, and because of that we are highlighting these irregularities. Newsfirst, of course, will continue to keep an eye on such transactions. Joel, it's back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ramesh, for that comprehensive update. Still in news here at home. Now, cabinet approval has been granted to call for spot tenders for the purchase of coal to operate the Norocholi coal power plant.
300,000 metric tons of coal are to be purchased under this process, with a metric ton priced at $91.85. Cabinet has approved the purchase from the Swiss-Singapore company. Thereby, the value of the transaction will be almost over $28 million. What is the urgency to purchase coal at such an exorbitant price?
Newsfirst has made a startling discovery regarding a cabinet paper submitted by Minister Lakshman Kiriyala on the 10th of this month.
The cabinet paper submitted by Minister Lakshman Kiriyala states that a due diligence study should be conducted on environmental and social impacts of the third phase of the Central Expressway due to the needs of the institute, which will provide the funding for the project. The minister has requested cabinet approval to gather the funds necessary for the study locally. Daily FT reports that the study will be conducted by a Japanese company and that it would cost 30 million yen or roughly 40 million rupees. The government lost the opportunity to obtain concessionary funds at government level from other countries due to the lack of a proper environmental assessment plan and resettlement plan for the second and third phases of the Central Expressway. A decision was reached to obtain the funding required for the third phase of the expressway through the Mitsubishi Bank in Japan. The loan includes a number of other fees and is being obtained at a high interest rate. Usually, when a loan of this magnitude is obtained, the government has to provide a bond. If such a bond had been placed, what is the requirement for a study on environmental and social impact? Minister Kiriyala claims that the environmental impact assessment for Phase 3 has been conducted. In such a backdrop, why is another study necessary?
Residents of Hanthana claim that the Road Development Authority is illegally constructing a road across a section of the Hanthana Environmental Protection Area.
Reports suggest that the entrance road to the Ulpatkanda Aranya Senasanya and another road are being constructed in an area coming under the Hanthana Environmental Protection Area. This signboard states that the project initiated by the RDA of the Ministry of Higher Education and Highways is being funded through an Asian Development Bank loan. According to the Gazette issued on the 17th of February 2010 to protect Hanthana, any construction in the Hanthana Environmental Protection Area requires the approval of the Hanthana Protection Area Management Committee.
මේ කලාපය තුළ
If any particular construction or development is to take place within the boundaries of this region, the approval of the Hantana Protection Area Management Committee is mandatory. The committee is chaired by the Kandy District Secretary. It is very clear that the Road Development Authority is constructing a road within the confines of the Hantana Environmental Protection Area without prior approval of the Hantana Protection Area Management Committee. This is illegal. The institution, which falls under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Higher Education and Highways, has violated the regulations of the Gazette paper concerning the Hantana Environmental Protection Area. Large-scale development activities are being carried out through ecosystems which should be protected. The current Minister of Higher Education and Highways had serious allegations against him even during the previous government for his involvement in the robbery of land in the Hantana area. This only confirms those allegations.
Upon further inquiry, the Director of the Central Provincial Office of the Central Environmental Authority, K.P. Valikannage, said he was unaware of this construction. He said, however, measures will be taken to dispatch a team of field officers to inspect the area. When Newsfirst contacted the Kandy District Secretary and the Chairman of the Hantana Protection Area Management Committee, HMP Hitisekara, and the Central Province Director of the Road Development Authority, A.M. Kumaratunga, they said they too were unaware of this construction.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Partly Champika Ranawaka, says that 50% of the land reclamation for the Colombo port city is complete. The minister said that the project has taken effect ahead of its planned duration.
Construction on the Colombo Port City project began following an agreement reached during the term of the previous administration in 2014. With the change in government on the 8th of January 2015, the agreement was reconsidered. In 2016, a trilateral agreement was signed. The Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development notes this agreement gained Sri Lanka more benefits than the agreement signed in 2014. The initial agreement to sell a 20-hectare land area of the port city to China and the rest of the land to be given on a 99-year lease were amended in the new agreement, which gave the entire land area on a 99-year lease. Therefore, following the end of the lease period, Sri Lanka will claim full ownership of these lands. This project is quite important to us. It had no motive before. It was said this was only going to be used to host car races and establish casinos. But now we have laid out a clear objective for this, to develop one portion of it as a financial city. The Colombo port will be at the same location. The eastern and western terminals of the port will also be constructed in the future. The Colombo harbour is expected to become more active as well. Moreover, underneath the harbour, we intend to construct a marina which will operate yachts to develop the tourism industry. The Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development is also planning to develop the coastal belt up to Dehiwala from beneath Kolpiti. The Colombo Qatar Expressway will be extended up to the Chaitya across the port as an elevated highway. We have agreed to connect this to Marine Drive through Golface Green and Golface Hotel. But from the Chaitya, it will be an underground connection to the Kolpiti station, which will connect to Marine Drive.
The time now is for a short commercial break. Tonight we hear the story of Rebecca Nalini Parasingam, a British woman of Sri Lankan birth, adopted 38 years ago. Rebecca has returned to Sri Lanka to continue her long and painful search for her birth mother.
Maybe I'll have siblings. Maybe I'll have aunts or uncles or someone who can even tell me who I am. People who can then maybe tell me what my mother was like. And I might actually even know my name.
On the 18th of April 1979, a baby girl was born at the De Zoyta Hospital in Colombo. It is believed she was then abandoned at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital. It was here that a Sri Lankan Tamil couple living in London adopted the baby on the 25th of July 1997.
When I was 8 years old, something of 1987 that was by mistake. I happened to be rummaging around in a cupboard and I yanked out a whole lot of papers, and I remember this vividly. It was this particular form and I saw my name all over it, and I was there 8 years old reading it going, oh my god. But surprisingly, I've always felt like something wasn't right anyway. I have always wanted to search, from the age of 8, but I grew up in a very strict, disciplinarian Sri Lankan family. So this needed to be hushed under the carpet as quick as I'd found out. So the only people that really knew about it was my school, bless them.
In 2013, when Rebecca had children of her own, she and her family came to Sri Lanka and began her first search for her mother. 6 women came forward. 6 DNA tests proved negative. 5 more years have gone by and Rebecca returns to Sri Lanka more determined to succeed in her quest to be reunited with her birth mother.
Here I am, I'm back to square one, all over again, to do the same thing, to just reach out to an island, which is like a needle in a haystack. And honestly, it's like a needle in a haystack.
If you or someone you know was working at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital between April and August 1979 and have any information that might help Rebecca, please contact News First on the following number: 0114 896 896. That's 0114 896 896.
And I know as morbid as this sounds, I've said to Anton, at least on my tombstone, when I die, I will know who I am. Because at the moment, I don't want anyone to write anything, because it's not real.
In news from courts this evening, Colombo Fort Magistrate Lanka Jayaratne rejected the application made by chairman of the Perpetual Group, Arjuna Aloysius, seeking permission to travel to Singapore.
Earlier, the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court issued an overseas travel ban on Arjuna Aloysius and 3 employees of Perpetual Treasuries Limited. Filing a motion via an attorney, Arjuna Aloysius sought permission to travel to Singapore to attend an urgent business engagement. However, the Criminal Investigations Department said based on the evidence that has come to light during the inquiry of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, cases are to be filed against the suspects and therefore they opposed the request made by Aloysius. The magistrate accepted the objections raised and denied permission to Aloysius to travel overseas. Senior Additional Director S. Padumanathan of the Central Bank filed a fundamental rights petition naming the members of the Attorney General's Department assisting the Presidential Commission of Inquiry and the Monetary Board of Sri Lanka as the respondents. The petitioner says he is being victimized for refusing to provide a favorable testimony to those named as respondents. During the impugned Treasury bond auction in 2015, he was employed as an Assistant Superintendent of the Employees Provident Fund at the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Now, senior lawyer Gomin Davsri commented on the decision to extend the tenure of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the bond issue.
Bizarre and bewildering things are happening at the Commission. That when the matter was coming to a virtual end, Ranil Wickremesinghe intercepts and says that he is prepared to give clarifications. What's your clarifications when there's a possibility of cross-examining? All people should be treated equally. I think Ranil Wickremesinghe is a necessary party, necessary witness, and he should get into the box and be ready to be cross-examined. At the same time, especially because there are great contradictions between what he said and what Malik Samaravikrama said on the same incident. That's a contradiction that should be examined. Now the opportunity is there because the President very correctly has extended the period of the Commission by 3 weeks, and during that 3 weeks I think we must have a cross-examination of the Prime Minister to unearth the truth, and he must be cross-examined. And I expect the Commission to go on for the 3 weeks, and Ranil Wickremesinghe cannot end his days with a clarification, a written clarification, but that clarification could further be probed now that it has been obtained, and a comprehensive cross-examination of all 20 witnesses and necessary witnesses are placed before the Commission, because the 3 commissioners are excellent people and we can expect some kind of report. I don't know about enforcement, but certainly a report is very useful even at this stage.
At a media briefing today, Minister of Resettlement to Prison Affairs D.M. Swaminathan announced a sum of 2 million per head has been paid as compensation for the loved ones of those who died in the prison riot of 2012, and 9 of the injured were paid a sum of 500,000 rupees as compensation. The minister also spoke about the rest of the aggrieved parties who were not given the due compensation.
There is another 22 people we have to pay for death as well as injured people, but they have not furnished us the particulars of their legal representatives. So once the particulars of the legal representatives are given to us, we are in a state to pay now. But as a first step, we had to do this.
Well, we now share cartoonist Asanka Ladu Hetty's take on today's news.
On that triumphant note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
And I'm Joel Outschool. If you missed out on any stories, log on to our website www.Newsfirst.lk. Take care. Good night.